another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Our focus of this show, as you likely already know, we find businesses and industries and people doing interesting, let's say remarkable things in particularly the small business world that we hope will provide us some insight and some information that we can apply to our own workforce, our own workplace, our own strategy of go-to-market. We look for interesting ideas and mine these ideas for the benefit of the listeners. And I hope you're going to get something very, very interesting this evening. I guess the conferences that I attend, you'll recall that so much of my work is delivering seminars and workshops and things of this nature at my client sites as well as at conference events. So many of these conferences that I attend, I sit in on other presenters, particularly big-name keynote speakers, to see what it is they're talking about, where they feel the world is going, and I enjoy the ones that are looking into the future, and so many of them can't help but include some component of technology. And forever, there have been repeated claims of the impact big data is going to have on our life. No one was ever really able, in my opinion, from what I heard, to tell us exactly what big data was and where it came from, only that it would change everything as we knew it. Big data and neuro-language processing or something like that. There are a handful of these things, artificial intelligence, that they continued to promise would change the world as we knew it. And my question was always, and I never asked this, but I kept it to myself and probably shouldn't have, when? And what's it going to look like? And give me an example of how things are going to change for me on a daily basis with this remarkable big data stuff. Never got an answer, really never engaged anybody out there, only very excited about what it would bring. Now, imagine yourself as a fisherman. And considering where this show is recorded and broadcast, there are probably many of you out there that fit that role. I certainly am. I'm a half-hearted fisherman, mostly the get away and get outside, but I still have a line in the water and consider it fishing. But imagine yourself as a fisherman and you go out there and you hit the water and you say, these are my favorite spots, or these are places where I've caught fish in the past. Therefore, I'm going to keep going back to them. And every now and then, maybe try something different, try something new, go with a friend and learn their spots and add those to my own. But you go to the favorite places. You've got habits and routines. And at least with myself and my father, we've fished together for years. We even tie up to the same poles many times on the rigs because this is the way we've always done it. And in the past, some of those places have been fruitful on certain times of certain days with certain conditions, but we never tracked those conditions. What was the tide? Was it ingoing? Was it outgoing? What was the temperature outside? What was the temperature in the water? What perhaps was the angle of the sun? What was the barometric pressure? There's so many variables that go into influencing the environment of fishing that many of the old schoolers will tell you you're not going to catch fish on a full moon or something like that. I don't know. There are all kinds of these things. What if, though, there were a way to go back into some pieces of data, and rather than you getting in your boat and saying, I'm going to this place that I've been because I like it and I've caught fish there in the past, you go to a data source and say, what are the weather elements today? And where have I caught fish on other days with similar weather elements? So that the data is driving you to the location based on the elements around you. What if this were possible? It would require that you begin tracking a lot of information. You input it, let's say, into a spreadsheet or, more likely, an app. And there's a group out there that has made this app, if I read this correctly, who are teaching people or encouraging them to fish by going to places they've historically had success based on the environment, not where their hunch may be. When we come back, we're going to meet the guys that are running Fishing Chaos. Actually, John Calagaz, who's the head of Fishing Chaos based here in Mobile. They're on to something big, and you're going to be impressed. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions, and we'll be right back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please go forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
You're listening to What's Working. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. I'm Cam Marston, and on the line with me is John Calagaz. John is the founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos, taking the mystery out of fishing, as well as so many other things. If you could see the bio that I have in my hand, you would be as impressed as I am. John, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
I appreciate it, Cam. Thank you.
I'm curious what got you into fishing of all things. Your background shows a lot of technology, 2 degrees out of Auburn, a master's degree in engineering out of Auburn, and then just a successful climb in different technology companies until you began this one. Tell me why fishing and technology matched up for you.
Yeah, so it all goes back to how I grew up. I was fortunate enough to have a house on Mobile Bay. And so from a young kid, I was always on the bay. Locals know us as bay rats, I guess. And, I sort of had my first boat when I was, I guess, probably 9 or 10 years old, and just have loved fishing ever since. And when I got to college, I made a decision to get in the technology side of things. And it was sort of at that time frame where, everything was sort of becoming techie, I guess. There was no iPhone, but you could tell there was stuff coming. And so I decided to stay in the technology industry and get the degree there. And when I got out, I wanted to come back to Mobile because I love fishing so much. Because I actually did work in Birmingham for a while I co-op there. And I was noticing that every weekend or every day off, I was making that drive back and fishing for the weekend and then driving back. So I decided I needed to be back on the Gulf Coast, and there wasn't a lot of technology companies down here. So when I found one, I held on to it, and I was lucky enough to spend 14 years there. And with that, I learned a whole lot on not only the technology side from an engineering perspective, but also from the business perspective. And so when I felt my time was done there, there was a massive gap in the world of fishing because I continued to fish the whole time. And, I noticed that things that in my everyday life that I'm using are not available to fishermen. Give you an example, like back in 2004 is actually when I started the idea of what Fishing Chaos has evolved to. Charter fishermen wouldn't even look at taking a credit card. You still had to mail them a check for a deposit. You still had to call 20 or 30 of them to find somebody that was available and open. And you didn't have a real way of knowing, what your trip was going to be like. And so that's sort of where it started. And I took that and said, okay, well, let's create this platform that brings the technology that everybody's used to. And when I say everybody, I mean the common man. When you're trying to book a hotel now, you don't call 20 individual hotels to find a room that's available.
All right.
You go to hotels.com or whatever Google it and try to find something that is available, and you look at the reviews and you pick it. So we wanted to bring that same kind of technology to the fishing industry. And when we got here, we saw that there's almost, technology is almost non-existent. And so there's so many green fields that we really just had to, stop and choose what would be the first one we selected. And, that's sort of where we got into the tournament side, because we really needed users, and what better user than users who pay to fish.
Yeah, they're all in. The ones that pay to fish are I've been with them. I've never fished a tournament with them, but I know that they get serious when they get out there. There's no way to catch a fish if there's not a bait in the water. And I used to watch these guys on TV, and they were casting over and over and over and over again. These were mostly freshwater people. So they're very serious about it, and any advantage they can get, they'll take. And they tie rigs and multiple lines, and now you're giving them an additional tool. I'm curious, the data that you gather. Well, first, I had this thought when you were saying that. At some point, you stood up and said aloud to somebody, maybe it was your employer at the time or your family, and say, hey, I've got this very lucrative, or let's say successful job. I have no idea if it's lucrative. Here in Mobile in the technology industry, we're doing very well. I'm going to give it up and start a fishing company. Somebody had to say, excuse me, what are you doing now? Tell me about that moment.
Yeah, so a lot of people said that. So my wife was very supportive, and she actually went back full time when we made a decision to start this. And she was there for me. But from early on, I've always been doing this as sort of a side gig, and I knew that it wasn't ever going to go anywhere unless I just sort of ripped that Band-Aid off and jumped in. So we saw an opportunity for me to do that, and it worked out on both sides. And so once I did that, then I did more in 3 months than I did in the previous 4 or 5 years as a side gig. And so then the next thing was, okay, well, we need to prove that we can get investments and we can make money off of it. So that's sort of where where we really had I would say fun, but it was fun with investors, trying to convince them that fishing can make money.
Yeah.
And so that's when it gets into the data side of it. And when you start looking at it, fishing is the number 2 sport in the U.S., the number 2 outdoor sport in the U.S. And the number 1 is jogging. And to put it in perspective, there are 50 million U.S. recreational anglers. And that means that 50 million people in the U.S. fish more than 3 times in 1 year. And compare that to golf, there's only 24 million. Now, when you're telling investors that, the light bulb starts going off.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line with me is John Calagaz. He's the founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. John, tell me about how these investors, you mentioned that prior to me resetting, what questions did they ask when they realized there's 50 million people out there who could be prospects to what you're creating? What did they say?
Well, first of all, you had to find investors that understood the fishing market. If you didn't find them, these are not the typical VC kind of investors. What we ended up doing is we looked for people that had, some decent sized boats. And I mean, that was sort of a mark on, do they understand that what we're asking for in money, a lot of people spend in 1 weekend of fishing, whether that be fuel, tournament tickets, bait, beer. It's a lot of money that goes into fishing. Once you find those people that understand how much money is really in fishing, and the fact that, we are helping those people save their day. They're already going out and spending lots of money on, ice, bait, tackle, charters. And if we can help them be more efficient in catching fish, then that day is a successful day.
Yeah.
So with the investors, it took some time to find those guys. And we found a great group. The first round was really friends and family. And then the next round, we found a great group of diverse investors that really got us and understood us.
I want to talk about data. Everything I read here, I've got 4 pages of information from you, all seems to boil down to the collection and management and regurgitation of data. Tell me about it. I mean, that's a very broad and unrealistic question, but tell me about this.
Well, it's also it's an important question with respect to fishing. A lot of fishermen would rather give you their bank account information or their login than give you their GPS spots. So we are a fishing first company. You got to keep that in mind. It is something that is, high on our mind, that privacy is very important. And we only collect data that you want to be collected. And it's only data that you are really inputting. And if we are collecting data on the side, then it is only to help you. And what you do with that is up to you. The data that we are, able to share with other companies like conservation groups, tournament groups, sponsorships, are all coming from active participation from the fishermen, not sort of passive, sneaky collection like some of these websites do that, target ads to you. That's not our goal. Our goal is not for you to start thinking about, a fishing lure and then all of a sudden this fishing lure starts showing up on your page.
Right.
We're talking about conservation data. We're talking about water temperature, water depth. It's so important to us that actually one of our patents that we have pending right now is sort of unique.
John, let's take a break. We're going to go to break, and I want to hear about this patent when we come back. Now I'm really excited to think about me Saturday in Mississippi Sound and how this data may be helpful to me. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line, John Calagaz, founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We'll be right back.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
Investing, connecting, leading, providing. The Community Foundation of South Alabama brings together philanthropic assets to make Southwest Alabama a better place to live, work, and play. We link donors to philanthropy. Working with you, we build communities. Contact us at communityfoundationsa.org.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
John Calagaz is the founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. They are helping fishermen, big and small, serious and hack amateurs like myself become better at what they do. And I think he's about to give us the secret. And it began with, John, prior to us going to the break, your description of the first patent you got around this concept, correct?
Yeah, but this wasn't the first one we were granted. This is one that is still pending, but it is one that's it's one that's important to the privacy side of things. Typically GPS location, everybody's about accuracy. Well, that's great for your information in fishing. You want your GPS spot on your sonar unit to be perfect. However, when you're telling people about things, you don't necessarily want to give them the exact spot. And so what we have a patent pending on is we call it fuzzy GPS. I think the actual title is System and Method for Selecting Alternate Global Positioning System Coordinates or something like that.
Yeah.
So what that means is that you have, as the fisherman and as the data owner, the ability to provide people, whether they be conservation groups, whether they be weather entities, with information, but you don't necessarily have to give them the exact spot. And so when you're sending, let's say, Dolphin Island Sea Lab information, they're not going to go out there and steal your spot. They just want to know general area of where things are caught. And we've noticed this at tournaments is if a fisherman's weighing a fish in and the Dolphin Island Sea Lab asks them, where did you catch this fish? You'll see the smart, remarks like in the mouth or in the water, things like that. But if you put a map in front of them with a lot of squares, they have no problem pointing to multiple squares.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what we're doing digitally is we're allowing the fishermen to provide their precision level so that we can provide, whether it be red snapper data for the red snapper collection, whether it be water temperature data on a spot you've been sitting on for 20 minutes that we probably know you're fishing there. But, we don't give away or, sell that data at all, those exact spots. It is the fuzzy side of things that, is more like a 5-mile radius, and people understand that, I want to see the wave heights out in the Gulf of Mexico. And these buoys that collect them now are 30 and 40 miles apart.
Yeah.
So there can be a lot of variation inside the data between them. So with boats being out there collecting data, we can fine tune that without giving away spots.
Give me the data, the list of data that you can gather. Let's say I'm out tied up to a rig. I'm south of Dolphin Island, tied up to a rig, and I'm catching king mackerel. And and I'm fully engaged in your system. What is the data you're able to collect from me?
Yeah, so if you have our piece of hardware on the boat, which the hardware should be launching this summer, and you're sitting there, you will constantly be collecting items like water temperature, barometric pressure, air temperature, humidity, swells, so wave height, depth, engine data, fuel levels, battery levels, speed, gas efficiency. Basically everything that you've always sort of thought you could keep in your mind, we're now doing it for you in the back end. So, when you catch a fish, and we have a catch log in our system. So when you catch a fish and you want to log that fish, then typically the old timers would write everything down.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna find a kid today that writes anything down.
Correct.
And so what they will do is they will just put that they caught a fish
and put it on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't really lie now. So when you catch that fish, instead of you going in and typing in water temperature, barometric pressure, moon phase, tidal phase, whatever it is, we do that in the back end. And the more data we have, the more hyper-local we can be. So giving a local example, if you're in Dog River and you're catching a speckled trout, at the front end of the river, that's where the water, the buoy is. That's where the water temperature is. But at the top side of the river, that can be a difference at 5 degrees. And you want to know that you caught that fish in 62-degree weather or water temperature, not 75 degree or whatever it is. So we start collecting that data and then applying it to your catches and your private information so that we can generate a heat map or a pattern. We treat fishing reports a little bit different. Fishing reports is what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Fishing patterns is forecasted, and it's how you've been successful in the past. So if you're trying to go fishing next Saturday, you can look and say, okay, well, in the past, I've done this. So based on these conditions, I should probably go to the eastern shore based on everything else I've known.
So I could wake up in the morning and say, based on the weather pattern today and the barometric pressure and the phase of the moon and what we know about water temperatures out there, I could sit on my dock and say, based on previous experiences on days like today, I have caught fish here. That's where I should go. Versus me going and trying my favorite spots until I find something. I'm now going to the spots where I've caught fish on similar days. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And one other thing that we're working on that hopefully will help out some of these guys that are very good at fishing is not only can you look at where you've been successful is, these guys can start to monetize where they've been successful based on their patterns. So if you think about it, some of these guys that are fishing every day, they know a lot. These fish are moving. And, if they have, let's say, 100 guys subscribing to them, paying them $5 or $10 a month, then they're in control of what kind of data they release. But now you could sit on your dock and you could say, what would Captain Patrick of Ugly Fishing do today?
Yeah.
And things like that. So we're getting a little bit past just what you can do, but how you can also have almost a virtual captain with you.
So if I don't have a piece of this hardware coming, and I see a picture of it in some of the information you sent, but I do have your app on my phone. Is the app able to capture a portion of the information that the hardware will capture?
Absolutely. It can capture all of it. It's just that the water temperature data will probably be from a buoy that's closest to you.
Mm-hmm.
Barometric pressure is actually in your phone, so we can grab that. But yeah, the data is still there. It's more accurate with the piece of hardware.
Now, does this take away, and I think I know the answer. In fact, I shouldn't even ask it. Does it take away the mystery and the charm of fishing and the surprise of having that rod double over or anything like that? I think the answer is going to be no. You're going to catch fish, not to try to catch fish.
Yeah, so we're not going to, try to turn you into a commercial fisherman, but instead of taking away that mystery, we want to take away those days that you go out there and get skunked.
Yeah.
So we sort of flip it around and rather give you a couple of pointers. I mean, we're not going to put the fish on the hook for you. You still have to do some stuff. But we want to help as much as you can. I mean, there's, on the sonar side, the side scan sonar, we're not even getting into that world, but I mean, nowadays you can see the fish swimming.
Right.
So I would say that we're going to help you go, to a specific area and where you probably should go based on things. And then other technology is going to take it from there and actually show you the fish. So, we can help out as much as you want us to.
John Calagaz is the founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. They're taking fishing to the next level. And for a weekend fisherman like that myself, this is very exciting. John, I suspect that it depends entirely on how much data I put in will give me the best results. I'm not going to be an intermittent once-a-month fisherman and really be able to benefit from this technology unless I'm a subscriber to one of the charter captains. Is that correct?
That's correct. Data in is what makes the data out good.
Yeah.
And so if you can put it in, the more you put in, the better it is.
So the conspiracy theorist in me is wondering about sabotage. What if I pick a remarkably barren part of the Gulf of Mexico where I've never caught anything, and I keep loading it up saying, yeah, I'm here and I'm catching a ton of fish so that I lure my fishing competitors away. Have you seen that yet?
We have not, because if you're putting spots in there, it's only hurting you because nobody's going to subscribe to you.
Oh, okay. There we go. So what is is there an antithesis? Well, we got 2 minutes. Is there an antithesis or a pushback to any of this? We got plenty more content to go after this next break, but in 2 minutes, who's pushing back to this idea?
Yeah, well, so, early on the tournament side, we had the flip phone fishermen is what we call them. And, they were the ones that said, oh, I don't need to buy my tickets online, or I don't need to do this. But they're also the first ones to complain that their name is not on the live leaderboard milliseconds after they weigh their fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they start understanding that in order to do one thing, they have to do another, that's sort of where they accept it. And not everybody has to do everything. But, some of these large tournaments we've done, we've only seen an increase on online tournaments. For the big one that we did, the LWMDC Fishing Rodeo, I think last year we were their largest ticket provider. So that's something that, you can sort of see the progression, and they have a lot of different types of people fishing that, not just one type. It's an eclectic group there.
Are you getting branding at these types of rodeos? Are you getting the recognition? Or are you preferring to be behind the scenes? Are you a big sponsor? Do you sponsor one of the boats? Or are you guys all behind the scenes?
We are behind the scenes, but we're always, that powered by Fishing Chaos. So you can think of the sort of the Intel method.
Oh,
you will always see us powered by. You will never see a white label version where you don't see us. So that's how we get our name out there, and users, from every tournament become Fishing Chaos users first before they buy tickets or weigh a fish.
John Calagaz, founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos, doing some remarkable things to the art, the passion, the weekend warrior fisherman like me. And when we come back, John, I want to talk to you about how COVID may have impacted your business. We can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is COVID. And we'll talk about what that's done for you if you've been holed up, when you're developing data, developing code, or perhaps, one of the things that I've done during the time of COVID is take my kids fishing. We've been able to do it. I'm not sure if it was appropriate or legal or what, but we did it anyway, and it was great to get outside. I'm curious what you've done during this time. We'll be right back. You're listening to What's Working, brought to you by Regions.
The Community Foundation of South Alabama links donors to philanthropy, builds networks across 8 counties, and builds dreams for those in need. Through our donors' gifts, we make investments that enhance our community via initiatives with broad impact. Working with you, we build communities. Contact us at communityfoundationsa.org.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His no-mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook, call 634-0100, or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard. We're back. John Calagaz, founder and CEO, Fishing Chaos, came out of Auburn University with multiple engineering degrees and has applied it in many different places. Today, the art of his art engineering degree is turned into Fishing Chaos, and it is a company designed to help you and me get a little bit better at our fishing, as well as other things. And there are 4 or 5 different lines of business you guys have here, but the one that's most interesting to me is as the weekend warrior fisherman. Now, John, how has COVID impacted you and what you've been doing over the past 6 or 7 weeks?
Well, it definitely has changed things. We are fortunate enough as a technology company to, yes, we have a nice office downtown Mobile. However, we can just as easily work remote. All the technology we have allows us to do everything from a laptop. And so we've been able to continue working. We have had to sort of change our direction on a couple of items. I would say, just to start with, the only thing really that's negatively impacted us from COVID was with our hardware. We've had a couple of certification labs that we were slated to go to in April, and those labs obviously have been shut down. So we'll probably have a little bit of a delay in the certification of the hardware, but it's when they open up, we'll be right there in line. But on the software side, we haven't really missed a beat. We've actually seen a massive increase in our app download, and that's sort of due to multiple things, and one of them being the sort of direction our tournament module has taken. And our tournament module typically has been sort of physical weigh-ins. And since fishing in the majority of states I think I've only heard of 2 states that just have totally closed down fishing, and since they've reopened. Fishing has always been an essential, activity, and, charter fishermen are actually deemed essential employees by some states. So fishing still is happening, and it's still legal. You still got to keep your social distance, but the weigh-ins are no longer viable. I mean, specifically, you have some of these tournaments that have thousands of people at a weigh-in. That's
Sure.
probably the worst thing to do. And so we've actually been working with high school bass teams, some collegiate bass teams, that we've been running a lot of their internal tournaments just as a virtual tournament. So these guys can go, fish and remotely send in their catches via our app. And we call them a catch log tournament. It's also known as a CPR, which is catch photo release. And we've had that module for a while, but it really was only for very specific people. Well, what we've seen now is that kind of style of tournaments is really taking off. And not only are we taking the traditional tournament and allowing them not to cancel this year, we've had a couple that this is our 80. We had a walleye tournament in New York that is, I think 82 years old, and this would be their first one they had to cancel. They made the flop, the switch, and now they're going to the online tournament. We're able to allow them to continue as is. And yes, it's a little bit different with respect to how you quote unquote weigh a fish.
Right.
It might be length. If with a picture on a ruler with a token in the picture to prove, we do some different things to prove that they're real. But we've seen those tournaments really take off. We've also seen some big brands that want to keep in contact with their customers. And so one of the tournaments that we launched a couple weeks ago was the Salt Life tournament. Salt Life is a big apparel brand, and, they're deeply into fishing. And so what better way to stay with their customers than to put on a fishing tournament that it's a free tournament, no cost to the angler, gets you outside fishing. But at the same time, it keeps in touch with them. They can, communicate with these customers, and, the prizes are, rather large Salt Life gift cards.
Wow.
So it makes sense on both sides. And we've really seen that just sort of take off since the start of COVID.
Tell me how I would weigh in a fish virtually. What is the process of that?
Well, it depends on the tournament rules, but I can tell you that the most typical way of doing it is you get what's called a bump board. And a bump board is a measuring device that has a right angle on one end that you can push the nose of the fish to. And then you have rules whether you can pinch the tail or fan out the tail. And then you have what's called a token. And a token is either a dollar bill or a piece of paper with a specific word written on it. In Salt Life's case, it's a piece of apparel or the word Salt Life in the picture. And you use our app to not only register for the tournament, but also submit a catch. So just like you're submitting catches to your catch log to better your patterns in your data, there's also an option to submit to a tournament that you're registered for. So if the tournament is a length-based tournament, we provide pictures of the fish and length of the fish so that judges can then look at those pictures and they can say, yes, this truly is a 25.3 inch redfish.
Yeah.
Or no, it's really a 24.9 redfish, and they can change it. So it's really just the only difference is the actual physical weigh-in is done with pictures and some tools to sort of help out the cheating side of it. So you're not going to see somebody with a fish that they caught maybe 2 years ago that they just happened to put on a ruler. We try to do our best to prevent that.
Yeah. Again, the conspiracy theorists in my head is saying, well, I'm going to catch me a big old fish and I'm going to keep it in the freezer. And when the tournament comes around, I'm going to thaw it out and put some water on it and take a picture of it. What's to prevent that?
Well, that's where that token comes into play. You don't get the token. And well, first of all, you can tell that a fish has been frozen. And that's where these judges are not necessarily just everyday, people. They're fishing judges. And so you can sort of tell that a fish has been frozen for a while, but you also can do some certain things about, you have to, put the lure you caught them with. Yeah. These kayak guys are forcing you to take the picture out on the water.
Yeah. I see.
So there's a lot. You're never going to get the cheater, out of fishing. I said a long time ago, I could make, a reality show, a very successful reality show from behind the scenes of tournament fishing. You're never going to stop that, but you can only help prevent it.
Yeah. So the COVID thing has allowed the virtual weigh-ins to go on, which has allowed these fishing tournaments to continue because in the past, historically, the weigh-ins were very populous gatherings. I can think about the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo, the crowds that are around there, which are forbidden at this time, is allowed you to continue, or allowed these tournaments to continue using these technology and ideas. And you've said your app downloads have boosted it, just boomed as a result?
Absolutely. Right now, we've seen a 533% increase over the last 2.5 weeks.
That's phenomenal. Well, I'm one of them, but not for a fishing tournament. Just saying, what is this stuff? Yeah. And you're also, I see from the information that you sent, involved with college fishing.
That's true. Yeah. So I don't know if people are familiar with the bass teams at the collegiate level, but there are multiple schools giving away full ride scholarships now. So the downside is there's no real way to prove, how good a high school athlete is in the fishing world. And so not only are we on the college side, we're also in the high school side, collecting this data, basically the fisherman's resume, to compare it to football, how many touchdowns, how many receptions, how many interceptions. We're creating that data for these kids so that when they start to get recruited now, there's something that they can have, concrete to share with people. The collegiate teams are taking this and going with what they can do on the recruiting side right now, but they're also utilizing it inside their clubs to run their own qualifiers, run their own internal tournaments, keep track of points, so they can, create their travel team, which is how the college side works. I think, some of these teams, they are a team of 70 or 70 plus bass fishermen and women, and they have their own internal tournaments, which we run to figure out their travel team, which is a team of 12 that go on the road and fish against other schools. Mm-hmm. And so Auburn University also put on a tournament in relation, or because of the COVID-19, their season is basically canceled. And so the seniors really never thought that their last tournament would really be their last tournament collegiate wise. So they put on a nationwide tournament, and they're seeing great success with it. It ends April. Well, actually, I think it ends April 30th, which is yesterday.
Yeah.
So with that, they're giving away great prizes, but they also saw, I think in the first weekend, they had 22 unique states with 44 unique schools already entered in into the tournament, as well as a couple of high school divisions have contacted us. One division has over 180 high school teams in it, and they're starting to utilize the system to start collecting that data for their kids, as well as creating their own internal tournaments. They last year went in these 180 schools. They created esports division inside their school, which people are also getting, college scholarships for now playing video games.
Yeah.
So the next level for them is to implement a fishing team for these 180 high schools.
Unbelievable. John Calagaz, founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. John, we've talked a lot about the personal fishing, what I could learn, what the colleges and universities and high schools could learn. Of the many different products that you guys have available in the market and services, I could ask you about any of them. Tell me the one that you're most excited about. Now, 500% increase in app downloads ain't bad. But tell me something else you guys are working on. I'm going to let you pick that you're really excited about.
Yeah, so we really didn't touch on the charter management module that we have. Like we said early on, booking a charter trip happens thousands of times a day but it's still the old school way. And so with our module, within, let's say, 20 minutes, if we have all the right data about the charter fisherman, within 20 minutes, we can put his entire business online. And not just, pictures and information about his trips, but also a fully functional booking calendar that is dedicated to fishing. So it's not like a reservation system that might also be used for bed and breakfasts or, yoga classes. It's really built from the ground up for fishing, fishing trips, fishing styles. And so we're now, not only allowing them to go online, but have that communication with their customers that previously they just had maybe a phone number of the person who paid. And so not only can they book a trip, they also can communicate with the captain or the customer between the time they book and the time they take the trip. We handle all the transactions, so the deposit, the final transactions, the balance, the splitting it up between people that are on the trip, as well as the tips and the review system.
Wow.
So that's really where I think, and we don't the big thing is we do not take a cut of every transaction. We just have a small monthly fee for the charter fishermen so that they can, make the money that they deserve. And we can help them not only with, saving them hours at night of all the book work. We have places where their accountant can log in, download reports, and do everything in the system. But we also, now that we're, growing, we use our user base of whether it be tournament fishermen or other customers that are just personally using it. We're using that database to start cross-marketing. And so if somebody joins a tournament, we can see that, hey, there's a charter guide open that day. Maybe we can put the two of you together or vice versa.
Yeah. Where do people, now if I'm wanting to book a South Louisiana speckled trout or redfish trip, where do I find this? Where do I go begin to search this?
So if you go to our app or our website, you can look at the charter side of things. There's a charter module and you can search. Doesn't mean that every one of those charters you see on there is bookable through our system, but we can put you in touch with them, which is sort of a warm transfer for us so that we can maybe book them in the future.
Yeah.
And so you'll see some of our featured ones locally here, and sure, go book those guys. They need it right now.
They sure do. I have a buddy that's leaving next weekend, and he was surprised to see that they are still in business and they're taking people. He was thrilled that his speckled trout fishing trip to South Louisiana is going to go. John, it's an impressive thing that you've got going on here, and glad to know that it's based here in Mobile. It's going across the nation, it sounds like. Have you had any international pickup to this yet?
We have actually limited the international side. We have a bunch of people in Costa Rica and Cabo that are interested in the charter and the marina management side of us. But right now we're limiting it to the U.S.
Yeah, that's impressive. Well, I'm a fan, and I've got the app, and hopefully the app is going to make me a more effective fisherman in and around Dauphin Island, which is where I go. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, John Calagaz, the founder and CEO of Fishing Chaos. You can find out more about him at fishingchaos.com. And John, I see from the information you sent, we've touched the tip of the iceberg. I'd love to have you back. I'm particularly interested in this piece of hardware that you've got developed and what that has been like and what the sale of the idea has been like to the boat manufacturers, which I suspect will need to buy into this idea to put it on the boat, huh?
Absolutely. We are already in talks with those guys.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm interested. That will be our next conversation. Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you, Cam.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We'll be back in just 1 minute with final comments.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
John Calagaz is on to something, and I think you can tell that. What he and I talked about were just a couple of the products that they're in the process of developing and continuing to refine. What we didn't get much into is the hardware that they're creating that he and I talked about a little bit during the breaks, and the significance and the power and the ability of this hardware to further give more information for the fishermen, as well as products that are on the line or on the development line down the road for the fishing guides as well. It's really cool. Now, this is, and he and I, again, so many good conversations happened during the breaks. This is the Internet of Things that is now helping you and me. This is the Internet of Things that we've heard about coming that is now here. And it's really very exciting. Now, I myself, I might not be the guy that's going to buy this hardware. I simply don't fish enough. But I could see if it was a passion of mine and I wanted to get better and I wanted to compete in fishing, that this hardware that John's talking about, again, that we didn't talk about in the show, becomes an integral part of my boat. It's right now aftermarket, but I think that would likely change in time once the significance and the power of this thing continues. It's remarkable. A hobby that most of us have, fishing, a passion that some of us have, really getting into it and perhaps competing in fishing, has been enhanced by technology. And I promise you, if you had asked me, 2-3 years ago, Cam, technology is going to impact everything, and I think it's also going to change fishing, I would have said, no, it's not going to change fishing. How is technology going to change fishing? Well, the naivety in me, and I guess that's both wonderful because I'm surprised by these answers as well. All right, folks, bringing another show to a close. Every one of these shows will recognize the COVID economy for a period of time because everything has changed. But I want to thank my team that's been able to help me during the COVID economy and continuing to get these shows done. In fact, we've been able to get a lot of people on the phone that historically we have not been able to due to their inability to travel and the cancellation of meetings and things like that. And the person that coordinates that so well is Kristen Ogden. Kristen, thank you as always for your work. And the show's producer is John Thompson. John takes out all my ands and ums and likes and you-knows and gets this show out sounding as good as it does on a regular basis. John, Kristen, thank you for your work. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We're very thankful for Regions for their support. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody.